Hi, learners. You are welcome to our eighth lesson in science. I hope you are all doing well, and I hope you are still studying hard. We still under sub-strand sources and forms of energy, and we are looking at one, identifying the relationship between heat and temperature. Two, identify types of thermometers and their uses. Now, as our lesson starter, what is the meaning of the term temperature? What is the meaning of the term temperature? You've heard of the word temperature in your previous classes, so you should be able to tell the meaning of temperature. Okay, we're saying it is the degree of hotness or coldness of a body or a place, or it is how hot or cold a body is, as usually defined in our primary class. If you have been able to define temperature according to this line of words, thumbs up, you have done very well. If it's something close, you have equally done well. Now let us move on to today's lesson, the main focus of our lesson today. We're looking at relationship between heat and temperature. I hope this has rung several times in your mind. You wondered if there is any difference between heat and temperature. Yes, there is, but not a significant difference. Now, before we look at the relationship between heat and temperature, it is prudent to know the meaning of heat and temperature. Then we can know how they are related. So, as we said earlier, temperature is the degree of hotness or coldness of a body or a place. It's the degree of hotness or coldness of a body or a place. Or is a measure of how hot or cold a body is. Now, what is heat? Heat energy is a form of energy that moves from one point to another point due to changes in temperature. So heat energy as a form of energy will only move from one point to another if there is a difference in temperature at the 2 points. So now let's move on to the clear distinction or how heat and temperature are related. Now from the two definitions we can conclude that the temperature of a body is determined by the amount of heat energy it contains at a given time. I repeat, the temperature of a body is determined by the amount of heat energy it contains at a given time. So if the body loses its heat, the temperature reduces as the body cools. And if the body gains heat, the temperature increases as the body warms up. Now, this scenario can be exemplified in our daily life. As you undergo a vigorous exercise, your heart beats faster, pumps blood faster, and in the process, you use more oxygen to burn food particles in your cells. Now, there will be release of energy in the form of heat, and as you gain more heat, your temperature will also increase. If before your temperature measures 36 degrees Celsius, after the vigorous exercise, if you take your temperature, you realize the temperature will amount to 37 or 38 degrees Celsius. It means gaining heat energy in in the body resulted into higher temperature. In another way, if you decide to relax, to rest, there the process of oxygen intake will reduce. And then the amount of energy released in the cells will also reduce. Consequently, the temperature when taken will be lower than when it was taken during the vigorous exercise. So there is a direct relationship between heat and temperature. I hope you understand. You have to note that in science, the term body refers to either living thing or non-living thing. So the word body does not only refers to human body, it refers to body of animals, body of plants, and even non-living things such as elements such as air, water or liquid, chemicals, physical body like wood, piece of wood, metal, and the rest. Even the soil, they are all classified as body in science. Now, let us move on to look at types of instruments used to measure temperature. Types of instruments used to measure temperature. Types of instruments used to measure temperature. Can you mention some types of instruments that are used to measure temperature? Good. We are looking at first one, clinical thermometers. Clinical thermometers. And we have the first picture, which is the analog type. Analog because it makes use of physical properties such as expansion and contraction of mercury as heat is gained and lost. That's why it's analog. There's nothing electronic about it. Then we have digital. Now the one here is the digital thermometer. Now in our hospitals today, this one is replacing the analog because it is said to be more accurate than the analog. However, some hospitals are still using the analog. Then beside this one is what has come to stay. It was in the system before, but its demand has become high in this era of coronavirus. Now, the difference between this and this is that this one needs direct contact with the patient. It is put in the mouth or in the anus or in the armpits to read the temperature. But this one does not need direct contact. It is placed at a distance, preferably less than a meter, about 30 or 50 centimeters away from the body of the patient, and uses infrared to record the temperature. This one too is gradually replacing this one, all in the name of technology. So the summary of the thermometers here is that they are all clinical thermometers. They are all clinical thermometers. Now let's look at the next one. Good. We have laboratory thermometer or laboratory thermometer. Good. You might have seen this before. This is a laboratory thermometer. It is longer than the previous ones that we just looked at. We shall, in our next lesson, look at how to use the laboratory thermometer. Take notes to record accurate or correct temperature. So this is the laboratory thermometer. Now, brief description. In it is the mercury. Now, remember, mercury is not colored red, as you see here. Mercury is gray, like the color of ash of charcoal. Now, Why is it red here? It is pigmented, or it is colored to be red so that its movement can easily be seen. In the thermometer. That's why it's colored. So take note, mercury is not red. It is gray in color. Alright, now let's move on to look at the uses of laboratory and clinical thermometers. You have to note that these are not the only type of thermometers. You have other thermometers used in gadgets such as our fridges, our electric pressing iron, and even factories that undergo the smelting of minerals such as aluminium and gold. They all have thermometers, but their thermometers have been designed for specific uses. But for our lesson, we are looking at only clinical and laboratory thermometer. So let's look at the uses of laboratory and clinical thermometer. So we take the first one. Now, before we take the first one, we have to note that thermometers in general are used to measure temperature of a body or a place. However, each type has specific role it performs. Let's take note of that. So what are the uses of clinical thermometers? Clinical thermometers are used to measure the temperature of a healthy or sick person, usually in a medical facility, hospital, clinic, medical lab, etc. You have to note that never narrow the use of temperature thermometer, clinical thermometer, to measure the temperature of a sick person only, but it is also used to measure the temperature of a healthy person. So that is the use of the clinical thermometer. Now let's move on to the laboratory thermometers. They are used to measure the temperature of chemical substances, usually in the science lab or in any other laboratory. So let's take note. It is used to measure the temperature of chemical substances in the science laboratory. Other laboratories like the medical lab, where one sputum, that is saliva or any fluid from the body, is tested, laboratory thermometer is used over there as well. Alright, dear students, what have you learned? In brief, discuss with your daddy or mommy or your sibling the main points covered in the lesson today. For our advanced learning, still research into how to use clinical and laboratory thermometers. How must they be used in order to record the temperature accurately without making a mistake? Alright, thank you very much for your patience and attention. Do the exercise and submit the work in time. Till we meet again, stay safe and bye.